started here. I appreciate you guys all being here. Welcome to our panel on foreign comics. My name's Shelby. I help run Hotkey Comics, and we specialize in foreign comics. We've been doing that for about 4 years now. We're the largest foreign comic dealer in the United States. We have a lot of fun with it. We have contacts in over 10 countries, so we're always getting new stuff in and discovering new stuff to find in these, because there's always new things to find. So today we're going to talk about some of the oddities and oddballs you find in foreign comics, which really make them different than American comics, and is one of the features that really draw a lot of us into them, and why we fall in love with them. So we're going to start out here with Italy, and they actually did something really cool in this. This is from 1966, all right? And this is a Linus or Charlie Brown magazine, obviously. But what they did in here was something really interesting. They decided to put the Fantastic Four in here. All right, they had a license from Marvel to do so, and they put the first issue of Fantastic Four in here. And this is their first appearance ever in Italy. So this is not just a cool oddity inside of a Charlie Brown book. It's a huge key because it gives you their first appearance in country, and it gives you the first issue. So, you know, it's really nice there. And then you get other cartoons in here. Some are original to Italy. You know, you'll get some American Peanuts and stuff like that. And it's a magazine size, obviously, an unprotected cover. They didn't treat it. These weren't viewed as collectible. You know, when they were produced, they were just meant to be read and thrown away. So any of them surviving in even mid-grade shape is really nice to get. And they did that more than once, but they only did it twice. So this Linus is one of the longest running series in Italy, and they still have some out. But in the 60s, they put Fantastic Four in it 2 times. And the second one was in February of '67. And this one, they put another huge key, and they put the first appearance of Dr. Doom, Fantastic Four number 5, which some would argue is a bigger key than FF1. But that's the only Fantastic Four you can ever find in these Linus magazines, is those 2 right there. They didn't do issue 2, 3, and 4. They didn't do 6, 7, 8. They just decided those 2 were going in Charlie Brown. And you know, you get those in Italy, it's just, you don't get the cover obviously, but it's an awesome way to get these. If this had the cover, you know, this would be probably a $3,000 or $4,000 book because people chase covers. But getting them like this, you're able to get them for a fraction of that and still get that content, first appearance in country of Dr. Doom in Italy, you know. So you get some really cool oddities like that, and that's just, we're gonna start out with Italy because they make some really cool ones. So that is from the 60s with Fantastic Four, but they didn't stop there. Also have their Spider-Man series here, which one thing a lot of countries do with foreigners is they will combine multiple series into one book, and sometimes they won't even tell you on the cover. Like this tells us it has Hulk in there, but a lot of them won't. And what they put in here was not just any Hulk key, they put Hulk 1. And that's the first time it appeared in Italy. They just said, this is issue 55 in Spider-Man, let's put Incredible Hulk number 1 in there. And so they did, and you know, and it has the full story in there, all the parts, it's all in here. So you get some really cool keys like that as well. And that's Hulk number 1 they put in the Spidey title. This one, this is a big one here that's not even really known yet. This has a lot of potential to get taken off. Again, Spidey title, big Hulk key. This one has actually had it cut out, but if you recognize the first appearance of Wolverine, right there, you know, they cut it out for that one. But that is Hulk 180 in here. You know, someone wanted to picture it, and you'll get it in this in forums, it happens. Because again, they didn't buy these as collectibles. You know, they wanted to put the picture on their wall, so they cut it out and put it on their wall. And this is from '77 there. So, you know, it just shows how long they've been doing that. And so that you got, and it's did the same thing with Hulk 181. That's in the Spider-Man one. I just don't have it with me right now. But you get a lot of cool things like that where you'll get a cover and be like, okay, here's a Spider-Man comic, but it's got Hulk 1 in it, you know? Things you just don't see in America. Or if you do, you know, America will do it later as a compilation. That's the first time this appeared in Italy. They weren't reprinting it. They were just like, here's some really cool content. So that's a little taste of what they did in Italy. Another thing they really do unique in foreign comics is bound volumes. And I've talked about these a little bit before for those who follow me. And they're completely different from American ones. You know, some people will make bound volumes of American comics, and it can be for different reasons. Maybe they're trying to, you know, marry some pages together or add a cover to it, or try to make a complete issue where they didn't have one before. That's not the case in other countries. In other countries, they do it to preserve it as a means of reading the comic and just to do it as a collection. So it's a lot more history around why they do it and different reasons why they do it. You know, in America, there's kind of a bad taste of bound volumes because a lot of times there's deception involved. People are trying to hide restoration, or they're trying to give you a married cover or something. So there's some hesitation. That's not the reason they do it in other countries. So usually 9 times out of 10, it's going to be complete, it's going to be awesome, it's going to be high grade, because they made these to be collectible, because the comics themselves weren't viewed as collectible. So this is how they made collectible volumes in other countries a lot of times. And this one here is actually Wolverine, called the Besno from Spain. It's got 17 or 18 issues. Most bound volumes, you'll get the cover, and then you'll get the issue, and if you see the side, you can actually see where they combine the different issues together. So this is where they took it. It's high quality. I mean, it's done correctly. They put the entire issue in there. A lot of times they will miss the back page. That's common, but you'll get the cover over and over in here, and they do some iconic covers in here too. You got a great Wolverine cover here. This is probably the most popular one in this. Is that awesome Wolverine cover there? But and these get destroyed all the time, because someone will want this cover, and they'll just pull it out, and and then they'll say, well, here's a discount one because it's pulled from bound. But now you just destroyed another bound volume, so now there's less available in the market. So every year, more and more of these get destroyed by people pulling out the covers they want. But if that's what you want, that's fine. But it makes these harder and harder and harder to get, because we just keep tearing them apart to get those covers out. And it's not just that's the smaller Wolverine one. They do the big keys too. Here is from Spain, giant size X-Men. The first issue there. And something nice they do with this is they even included the poster in it. So now from Spain, you'll get this issue a lot of times and it's missing the poster, because again, they put this on their wall. They weren't viewed as collectible, and they didn't see any point in keeping it. So to get these with the poster is getting tough. And they would take them out of the bound volumes a lot too. But this is a whole X-Men, the first 10 issues up front. There's your Kitty Pryde key in there. They made it issue 3, but it's the full issue in there. It's just, it's so well preserved. It's just amazing quality. And you got another nice key here as well. So you get some really cool combination issues out of these bound volumes. I had one that had the Spain Hulk 181 in it. I sold, a couple months ago. But I really can't stress how scarce these are, and how hard they are to get, especially with keys. People just keep destroying them all the time. So there's a lot of people that aren't really aware of them. So I like to highlight the bound volumes what I can, because they are such a unique oddity in the world of foreigns, and I think they have amazing long-term potential.
Can I ask a question about that?
Absolutely.
So with those, are the same advertisements like from the American issues like in those as well?
No, usually all the ad pages and editor pages and letter pages, usually those will be changed. It's rare that you get a direct copy, and usually if you do, it's like a bootleg unauthorized. Because usually if they were approved from Marvel, they're going to say, well, put your own ads and whatnot, et cetera, in there. So 9 times out of 10, you'll have original ads to the country, except in rare situations where they do an exact copy. Usually it's translated and changed.
I think those are even in bound ones, right?
Yeah, yep, this will have all the ads for like Spain in it. Example here, the letters page.
Glasses.
Yeah, like here's their checklist, and it's all Spain comics that they had on the back cover. So yeah, they don't copy over the American stuff, they switch it. Here's where they put their own comic in the back, so they definitely make it their own for the country as instead of just a direct copy for copy. So yeah, the bound volumes are cool. Another cool thing they do is fan editions and bootlegs. It's another thing where in American comics, people really don't want bootlegs or fan editions, because usually it's not done with good intentions. It's usually done to deceive or try to get, someone to buy something they think is authentic. And that's not the case with foreigns. This one here is a great example. This is the Lebanese Hulk #1. And as you can see, it's got that red background, which is a lot different than the American one. Now, if this was original, it'd be about 20 grand, because there's only single digits known to exist. It's from the late 60s. We don't think it was even an actual print run. We think it was like a proof copy they did never produce, because we can't find any of them. But people wanted the cover because it's awesome. So someone made a high quality bootleg, so people didn't have to spend 20 grand to get this cover. And and it was done with the right intentions. It was done so people could collect it. It was high quality, and it wasn't done to deceive. It was openly told people this is a bootleg, and this is now selling for $500 all day because people want it. And it's a beautiful cover, and they know what they're getting. So with them, if we reprinted Hulk 1 in America and tried to sell it, we couldn't get $5 for it. Because number one, they're abundant. These are not abundant for one. The supply is non-existent. So if you want them, a lot of them to get these rare covers, like this one here. This one would cost you about $4 or $5 grand for an original, for that Tech 359 pink background. But you can get the bootleg here, and this one you can get for about $300 now. So it's a way to get these really cool cover variants they do. And like I said, it's done for the right reason, so it's not trying to deceive you and make you think you're getting an original. If someone tells you you're getting an original $10,000 comic for $500, you should double check anyways. But it's led to some really awesome things in the foreign community lately. This is a fan edition of ASM 129, and people are loving it. It's the first time we've got a gray background on it. They did an awesome back cover on it, and they don't even hide it. It says right here, fan edition. They're letting you know we love the Punisher here, but we don't have this cover, so we want to make a high quality one, and it's all in there, And then they even tease what's coming next. Hulk 181 they're going to do, which we just got. It's already sold out. Some people don't like bootlegs. If it's not your thing, definitely don't do it. But we just like to let people know there's nothing wrong with these. You know what you're getting. It's not an original, but it's an awesome piece of the foreign community. It looks great in cover sets. People that want complete cover sets, they're going to get these. And a lot of times it's the only way you're going to get that cover. This one is another 129 they did. This is my favorite one. This is actually Bengali right here. And it's got a hand skull stamp. It's easy enough to see it. But it's got GPS coordinates on the skull stamp that go right to Jakarta where they printed this. Like you can put in the GPS, You got his actual first appearance they put on the back cover from the panel inside. So things like that, it's high quality, high gloss. But the first time you get that cover in the country, they didn't have that cover before. So, if you wanted this cover from there, you'd have to go with the bootlegs. And, I have the Hulk 181 bootleg in my personal collection. I have no problem collecting them. Collect what you love, but bootlegs are definitely a great part of the form. Another thing we talked a little bit about that I like is first appearances in country. We showed you the Fantastic Four, and you obviously get those sometimes in unique places like the Linus. This one is from Greece, and this is obviously a Superman cover, but inside it has the first ever, story of Batman in Greece. So this is the first ever time Batman appeared in Greece, and it's in a Superman book. And it's actually not even a Superman title, it's like a compilation title, but Superman's on this one. So there you get a first appearance in country where you would never know it from the cover. It doesn't say Batman on the cover, now carrying Batman, you wouldn't know it until you get in there and look. And then you gotta do your research and see, Batman appeared in Greece before this. And you find out, no, this is his first appearance. And then you do the same series here, which is kind of, you can see it's this is the title in Greece, and this is the title here, but then they'll change the subtitle depending on the character there. So you get a cool issue, but this is Batman's first cover appearance in Greece. And it's a double-sided, but there is the first time you ever see Batman on the cover. And again, it's not in the Batman series, it's not in the Batman title, it's one of those cool oddities you see, in the foreign community. So I'm a sucker for first appearances in countries. I think they have a great future. And this one from Greece is one of my favorite because it's in the Superman. So. Now, what you'll get into with some first appearances is sometimes in other countries, they will show up in weird places. This is not only the first appearance in the country, this is the first ever international appearance of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1. And it's from Sweden. No other country did it before this other than America. But it's in a Max magazine, which is just kind of a compilation. They got different comics in there. It's not a TMNT magazine, but they put TMNT #1 in it. And this is the first time it ever appeared in any country. So you have not just first in Sweden, you have first in the world outside of the US, which makes this a big one. Usually these only come to market about once every year or two. They're really tough to get. They're starting to really dry up. But you see cool stuff like that in there. Now it's time for one of my favorite ones. So Horror comics are really a different breed of their own within foreign comics. Because a lot of countries, you know, they went with what was popular. So like, give me Spider-Man, Batman, and Superman. That's pretty much what they want. Maybe some X-Men, you know, as it got later. But you didn't really see a lot of minor titles in other countries, or if you did, their print runs were so small. But Denmark, they stood out above all the rest with this 70s horror run. And it's really awesome. It's one of my favorites. It's one of the most collected ones. It's a double-sided. This is from the mid-70s in Denmark. So on one side they have Vampire, which is, you'll see some Werewolf by Night. And on the other side they have some Ghost Rider. And again, it's a double-sided comic, so you get both stories in there on both sides. But giving you those two covers, you know, you don't get that again in American comics. And they do some keys in it, like this Dracula. This is one of the most awesome ones here. You get that Tomb of Dracula one cover, you know, right on the front. And then they give you that awesome horror cover back there too. So you really get some interesting combinations. And you see some cool things they do. You see how this corner is cut on there? In America, we have remainder copies. If you guys are familiar, it's where they rip like the top third off and then they send them back, and that's how they know they got to get their money back. This is how they denote that in some other countries. Instead of ripping the whole cover off, they would cut the corner, so that when the manufacturer got it back, they would know this has already been returned once they can't get their money back again. So they don't destroy the whole cover like America does, you just get that little corner cut. So that's actually a piece of the history of being returned to the manufacturer there. But you get some amazing covers in this here. Another Werewolf by Night and Ghost Rider. The Werewolf by Night and Ghost Rider might be the best set of two you get for front and back covers in all horror comics. This Denmark series is just, it's amazing. It's less than 20 issues, so it's easy to put together as number-wise, but finding them, it is tough. I usually don't have more than one or two of these. I happen to have about half the run right now. So it's really a special time I'm able to see many of these. But if you like horror stuff, this Vampire and the Dracula run should be at the top of your list for foreigns, because this is about as good as it gets for a horror run. A lot of people, that's right at the top of their list for what they want. Any question on anything I've covered so far? Now we're going to talk about some ghost books. So in America, you know, you'll have some stuff where it's really rare and really tough to get, but it's usually you can find, you know, multiple copies of any American comic out there. In foreigns, we have ones where either we know they come to market maybe once a year, once every 2 years, or once every 5 years. There's different levels of rarity. And some stuff like the ASM 300 from the Philippines, there's waiting lists. Some people have been waiting 2 or 3 years to even see one. And you know, if you get like a 1.0, they're grand. So there's some really rare stuff in foreigns that you just don't see that type of rarity in America. And this is one of my favorites. This is Bengali. This is the A-Team. This is one, I'm telling you, if it lasts much longer, I'm going to put it in my personal collection because it's just amazing. This is original arts Bengali. I don't know where they got the idea, but they got Mr. T, or B.A. Baracus, as he was on the A-Team. He's got this broken axe, so he's got two weapons there. I never saw him wielding an axe in A-Team. And then on the back, you got Lee Majors on a photo cover. You know, I mean, I don't know what they were thinking when they put this together, but it is awesome, and I want it. You know, you got their art in there where they drew Mr. T. He looks really weird. It's their own art they do. You got a photo cover of the A-Team. I mean, when it comes to cool oddities, this is what we are talking about here. This, I would guess this is probably an original story. I doubt this is an American comic they put, you know, everything else is original, they didn't do it. So they probably just took the inspiration of the A-Team and wrote their own. And then you can see in the half where it flips over, you get to the Lee Majors story here. So it's just, you know, I love stuff like this. This is why I got into foreign comics, is seeing stuff like this. And this is, you know, we don't know any known sales of this in the last 10 years. We can't even find anyone who has sold one of these in a decade. That's how rare this is. So when you're talking about scarce, you know, single digits known to exist, we're talking about stuff like this. And this is one of those, when you get it, you know, you just celebrate it. Condition is completely different in foreign comics. You know, American, everything's by the grade. in foreigns, many times it's own it first, and then if you can upgrade it later, great. But you may never see another one, you know. So yeah, this is probably, you know, maybe a 5.0 at best, but there probably doesn't exist a 7.0 in the world, you know. So be happy with mid grade and low grade. Learn to love them because we do. But yeah, you get some amazing stuff like this. And this is like a cardstock cover. We couldn't even find a year in this. There's no indica. We assume it's mid '80s just because of the art on it. But who knows? You know, it's one of those awesome Bengali ones. So.
Did you ever translate it?
I've used Google Translate on some, but I don't have any American 18 comics to compare it to see if the story's original. But yeah, it comes up as Bengali. But I would imagine, I mean, none of the art looks American. You know, it looks like they drew all the art themselves. So I would imagine all the story's original, which we would call non-canon. You know, so it's a non-canon 18 story from Bengali, which, you know, that's a conversation in itself. And then I didn't bring it, but I have the Superman as well, which has this advertisement for this on the back cover. So you see a black and white BA with an X on the back cover of Superman from Bengali. It's just like, you know, it's so awesome. It's why I love it. All right. Speaking of non-canon, excuse me, we're going to go back to Italy for a minute here. So Italy is one of my favorite countries. And this is one of my favorite series from them. This is the first Batman solo title in Italy. He appeared before this in Italy. He was in other titles like Nembo Kid and things like that. But Mondadori is the publisher, which they still publish today in Italy. They're a powerhouse. But what they did is they did a lot of original covers, original non-canon stories, and then they would do interpretations of covers and put their twist on. So like this is an original cover here. But then we think another country took this and bootlegged it, which we haven't proven yet. But you know, it's stuff like that influence. But you get covers like this, and then they got Batman stories in there, of course. You know, now this does not have non-canon in it. This is American Batman stories in there with unique cover. But then you get into stuff like this. Now this is an American cover. They did a color difference on it, but this is a non-canon Batman, and as far as I know, it's unique. It's the only one I found that has two non-canon stories. So it's also unique because it has a Christmas Eve cover date, Christmas Eve 1967, right on the cover. And you can see they do a Christmas Eve theme. Not only that, they have a non-canon Batman Christmas story for Italy. This has never appeared in any other country, written just for Italy. And they actually have two non-canon Christmas stories for Batman. So this is like a one-of-one. This one's just a 2-page story. The other one is all the first half of that's like 16 pages original content. It is just awesome stuff that, you know, you're not going to see anywhere else. The long-term potential for non-canon, in my opinion, is the sky's the limit. You guys, some of you have probably heard of the wedding issue from Mexico that sold for like $30,000. That's non-canon. Because the writer in Mexico, he didn't like when they killed Gwen Stacy in Spider-Man, so he kept her alive. And he had her marry Peter and all that. They did a cover, and so all that non-canon now is getting collected and desired, and now it's selling for 5 figures.
So is it true that, you know, when Spider-Man and Gwen Stacy first got married, it was advertised on a baseball game? Like at their whole wedding or
I'm not sure on that one. Yeah, that I don't know. Yeah, I know that Duran, he was the artist in Mexico, and he just said he didn't like it when they killed her. And remember, this was in the 70s. Marvel was facing bankruptcy. They weren't coming up and doing quality control checks on these companies. If they got a check that cleared, they were happy to let them use the art, however. So, you know, when you get non-canon like this, it's because Marvel and DC wasn't following up. They're like, sure, do whatever you want. And when you find out 25 years later, it's too late to do anything, you know. So that's how they were able to get away with it. Whereas today, they have to send it in for approval. You know, it wouldn't get approved at the printer. That was not the case throughout probably most of the 90s in other countries. They just did what they want. So you'll see there's no rhyme or reason from one country to the next how they produce forms. It's whatever they do in that country. But yeah, non-canon stuff, in my opinion, like you see with the Spider-Man, there's some French Spider-Man non-canon, there's Italy non-canon Fantastic Four, there's German non-canon Spider-Man. So I think that all has tremendous future because it's original stories, you know, and we've seen what can happen with Mexico. But this series itself, the Mondadori, is kind of interesting as well. They got gun ads on every single back cover in Italy. Kids comics in the 60s in Italy, they're like, let's give them guns. And I haven't found, it's 82 issues I think, I haven't found an issue yet that does, and they got like 8 different gun ads out of that. It's not like they keep using the same one. Italy loved their guns in the 70s, and this series is proof of that. So there's even ads inside where it shows like kids shooting with their parent, you know, they were all out. So you get cool stuff like that, you know, another oddity in there that you just don't see in Florence. But yeah, any other questions on what I've covered on there, or about foreigns in general, or anything?
Are there any like original stories from foreign countries that you know that have like maybe permeated into the U.S. or anything like that? Something that's not the non-canon like of characters that come from America.
There's some where they write, like G.I. Joe has a lot of original stories because a lot of other countries didn't have a version of G.I. Joe, so he's renamed it like Action Force or Action Team, and then they would just write their own because half the G.I. Joe stories are very pro-American, American-based, so they can't just, you know, print them translated. So they would adapt them as needed or as wanted. In the case of like Duran, he just didn't like the story, so he wrote his own. And then when Marvel did find out a couple years later, they made him fix it. He's like, okay, Peter was just dreaming, you know. So it turned out. So that was his cop out. Yeah, that was, you know, he was forced. So Marvel kind of forced. He's like, okay, he was dreaming, sure, whatever. But yeah, so you know, it was very much a case of foreign comics of ask for forgiveness later, you know, apologize later than ask for permission up front. And that's how you get a lot of these oddities and oddballs that never get approved today. You know, you get like DC and Marvel in the same book sometimes. That would never fly today. You'll get different you know, characters interacting, and some of the non-canon you'll even get like friendly interactions between like the Joker and Batman and stuff. You know, just stuff they wouldn't find in America. So you see some really cool stuff like that too. Any other questions at all? Okay. Well, I got through it I figured about a 30-40 minute panel. I didn't mind keep to the full hour because, you know, foreign comics are fun, but I don't want to bore you to death with them. I love them personally. We've been specializing in them for about 4 years. It's all we collect. I got into them because I wanted covers I couldn't afford in the American stuff. You know, I wanted an ASM 129, I wanted a Hulk 181, I bought the Russian ones. I got them in my hand and I was like, oh, these are awesome. And I was hooked. And since then, I just, you know, within about 12 months of that, I wasn't buying any more American comics. It's what I believe in. I'll tell you, the market, I mean, you never know what's going to happen, but the market supply compared to the price is so out of whack for the scarcity on these. You know, I think these are going to go the way newsstands went. When people became, you know, newsstands used to be shunned. People didn't want them. You could buy them for half cover price of Rex. And then people learned they were rare. They learned they were harder to get in high grade. And now you get them 5-10x multiples of the originals. You know, so all it took was an increase in the awareness. And I think that's the same way foreign comics are going to go. As awareness increases and more people chase them, you know, you can wipe the market out on foreign's real quick. Like if I go buy all the ASM 300s in America tomorrow on eBay, tomorrow there's going to be 500 more. That's not the case with foreigns. There is a very finite supply that once it's gone, it's gone. And then, you know, that's when the market's going to catch up. So I'm a big believer in it. My PC is all 99% foreigns, you know, other than a couple American covers I like. And we love to talk about them. We have 2 other panels online on our YouTube. We did one last year. It was just why collect. It's kind of a general information panel on foreign comics. And then we also did a market analysis one last year in Lansing. So those are a little more informative. This one I just wanted to make it a little more fun and kind of show you some of the cool features in foreign comics. We do foreign content as well. I have a series called Fun with Foreigns. We got 4 episodes of that out. We have foreign quickies, which are like 3 to 4 minutes. So we have a lot of foreign content on our YouTube, Instagram, panels like this. If it's foreign comics, you're going to probably see us talk about it. So. But we also do live sales every week, Instagram and whatnot. We got cards up here with QR codes. We have a lot of fun. You're always welcome to stop in, whether you buy anything or not. We call it our foreign comic support group every week. And, you know, we get together and talk foreign. So Friday on whatnot, Saturday on Instagram. But if you have any other questions, feel free. Otherwise, that's a little overview about some of the really cool stuff you're going to see in foreign comics with the oddities and oddball. And you know, I could bring 100 other examples in. This is just kind of, I want to give you a little taste to kind of show you some of the differences. But we're finding new oddities every day in the world of foreigns. which is part of the fun of it. You know, it really is the Wild West. It gives you that Wild West feel. So, American, we know what everything was printed, we know when everything was done. There's so many unknowns and points, and that's what really allowed us to it. We call it the Wild West. So. I really appreciate you guys being here. It's a much bigger turnout than I hoped for, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're at 12:30. If you guys want to stop by, we're right across from Katie Skull and Theo Rossi. You'll see our band comics. And we got wheels to spin, we got giveaways, so I really appreciate it. That's Foreign Comics.